Lane Byrum, welcome to the Empathy Edge podcast to talk to us about, of course, all things empathy and helping people practically embrace empathy without being performative. So,
Yes.
welcome to the show.
Thank you, Maria. I'm excited to be here. I have been following you for a while, so it's always fun to get to talk to someone. You've been reading their books and things like that. This is good. I
I
love
love
this.
it. I love it. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, before we dive into all the goodness, I want to hear your story. Tell us a
Mm.
little bit about how you got to this work, what your passion is around it. We heard your bio earlier, but tell us like what lights you up about it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So empathy, I joined a qualitative research firm back in the early 2000s, and we kind of did things the regular way. We went and recruited consumers, talked to them about the thing we were trying to sell or get them interested in. And it was rewarding because it's always good to kind of give someone something that they need once you
Hmm.
understand that. But we found that our our insights felt very surface, like maybe we could take our insight and use it over here or with that company, and your competitors could use it. And we wanted to go deeper. And so as a company, we dove in on empathy and explored what it could mean that we used it as a tool in research at the time. Now, since then, I use it in my coaching. I do empathy trainings and things like that. So I love empathy, but that's where it started, was at that
Yeah.
wonderful company I got to work at, named Seek was the name of the company.
I love that. I mean, you and I both we have a marketing background in
Yeah.
different areas. And that's always the key is really effective marketing is about empathizing and understanding who your ideal client is, your ideal customer. And that's why I've loved partnering with research firms. I geek out about, the insights you can get from people about how they really feel about a company and what problems
Yep.
are they actually trying to solve, not just what the company wants to tell them, but what they need to hear.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're just going to run with a verbatim that someone says, it's probably going to fall a little flat. You need to get underneath that. But the verbatim feels like the what, right? And we want to get the why behind the what. So
Of
kind of get
course.
up underneath that and find that. So yeah, empathy is a great tool for that.
Okay, so I want to hear your story about a particular research project and how empathy got real for you.
Yeah.
What was your big aha moment?
Oh my goodness. It was a nice to have for me. It was like, okay, empathy, cool. It's a
Yeah.
great way to connect. Yay, I'll use it.
Yay.
Then I was on a research project in Mexico City. We were researching toilet paper of all things, which is just a lot of fun.
Yep.
But if you've ever been into that culture, it is such a warm and welcoming culture. Every home we went to, we were doing immersions. Every home we go into, they'd welcome us. They'd want to fix us dinner or give us drinks or try this new tequila we had. It was just all just a wonderful thing. We go to our last one. Our team is like on riding a high because everything had gone really, really good. And knock on the last door, and the door opens, and this lady's just sad. Her face is sad. She's like, almost looks like she wishes we weren't there.
Oh,
And we're like, we're here for the thing. She said, yeah, come on in. And obviously, this is through an interpreter
right.
and a local moderator who we were using.
Right. But you felt a
So
vibe.
oh, I walked in the door and it's like something heavy is here and I don't know what it
Yeah.
is yet. So
Yeah.
we go and we sit down and we're like, hey, you know how research goes. We're going to ask you a lot of questions and you're always going to have the right answer because, it's your opinion. And she goes, well, let me stop you there. You are not going to ask me any questions that are personal. You are not going to ask me about my family, and you are not going to ask me about anything that goes inside it. And we're like, well, there goes the first hour of our two
Right.
hour
Like
thing.
that's
It's
kind of
all
why we're here. Yeah.
That's the stuff we do. I looked over at the local moderator and she's like, are you ready to go? Would you just like to go? And I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't know what's going on either, but let's go. She wants to start talking about toilet paper. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So we're like, hey, take us. Yes, we're going to talk about toilet paper. Let's run to the restroom and we'll see where you store it and things like that. On our way there, we passed this room and it's just wall to wall books. It was like a little library in
Uh-huh.
their home. And I stopped and I said, hey, what are all these books? Are these belong to the family? She goes, oh, those are all medical journals. I'm a doctor. And so that's not even half of them. I have my more current ones are actually at my office where I practice. And I'm like, that's incredible. And it's like a
Yeah.
little bit more knowledge about
Yeah.
who she
Yeah.
is. And along the top of all these books were all of these trophies. And I'm like, oh, those yours too? I see there's golf and there's other stuff. And she goes, no, those are my husband's and my son. I've never gotten a trophy for anything I've done in my life. And it's just this heaviness came back out.
Yeah.
On the end, there was a trophy that I didn't recognize. It didn't have a sports figure on top or anything. And I'm like, what's that one? Because she seemed to be engaging. I said, what's that one on the end? And she goes, oh, yeah, that's my, and broke down, ran back into the room where the couch was and just sat down sobbing.
Oh my
And
gosh.
again, my local moderator is like, should we just go? I don't know what's going on, but this is really uncomfortable. I
Right.
said, no, 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 no. Let's go back in.
Yeah.
So this time I went back in and I kind of broke a little bit of protocol. I
Uh-huh.
sat down on the couch next to her.
Yeah.
Usually that's where the local moderator sits to talk, and I sat down next to her and she's sobbing. And the local moderator's like, let's just go. And I'm like, just give it a second.
Yeah.
And I'm an empath and I'm also an Enneagram 2. So I'm very much dialed in to emotions of others and wanting to
Yes.
help.
Yes. You're a
So
pleaser.
again,
Yeah.
very much so. I couldn't sit there and just let her cry.
Yeah.
And I reached over and grabbed her hand.
Uh-huh.
And she looked over at me. I'm bawling. I don't even know what I'm crying about in the
Right.
moment. I just know you're crying and this is uncomfortable and I know this is something heavy.
Right. You're just sitting with it in her,
Oh,
with her
just
in it. Yeah.
being in the moment, just there.
Yeah.
I didn't have to say anything. She turned, her eyes just pouring down ice, and she turned and she goes, that was an urn, and that was my son, who I lost just 2 months ago. Well, now we're all crying. Everyone in the
Oh
room is
my
crying. And I've got
goodness.
both her hands and we're shaking. We're crying so hard. And
Yeah. Yeah.
ugly crying
Yeah.
going on. And she goes, but through that experience, I learned how to truly love. And so now I'm crying even more. And I'm like,
Oh
I
my
want to ask
gosh.
questions. And she said, it was the most helpless feeling I've ever had. I'm a doctor and I couldn't do anything to help him. Then we're crying even more. And then she kind of stopped for a moment. She gathered herself and she looked at me and she smiled and she goes, but I learned one thing, that I'm a damn good mom.
Oh.
And so we're crying. I'm holding her hands and I'm talking. I'm like, you are a good mom. I'm sure
Yeah.
your son felt that from you. I'm sure you got all that. We sat there for maybe 2, 3 more minutes
Uh-huh.
and everything about her changed. All she needed in that moment was for another human to be a human with her.
Yeah.
That's all she needed. Just another human. She became bubbly.
Yeah.
Her husband came in and she was making fun of him. Are you out there playing tennis again? You'll never be as good as Federer. But yeah, go back to the like just all this
Yeah.
banter back and forth. She wanted to make us a meal. She wanted, and we couldn't. We had to leave to
Right.
go run to another
And
one.
you're also like, and we have to ask you about toilet paper, right?
Yes, yeah, we looped it back the toilet paper
Segue, hard
somehow.
segue. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some learnings there. But when we left after having this deep empathic moment, we went and sat in the van about to leave, and just something hit me, and I said, "We have to do something for her. We can't just leave." Like that's, and then it hit me. We contacted the person that was our contact in Mexico City. We're like, strange request. Do you know anyone that is a trophy maker or a sculptor of any kind? And they're like, yeah, we've got someone. I described what we wanted and what we needed. And overnight, a local artisan created a trophy that was a mother holding a child. And on the plaque, it had her name, which I won't use, but it had her full name on there. And
Uh-huh.
all it said was world's greatest mom.
Oh my gosh.
There was no debate about putting the name of our company or the company that was sponsoring the research.
Right.
No
It
one
wasn't
wanted
about
that.
that.
It
Yeah.
wasn't about that. It was about we had a reaction to what was going on and we felt compelled to act on her behalf. And
Yeah.
that meant showing her that we recognized something in her. You're a
Yeah.
great mom. You're a
Yeah.
really good mom. And so that for me was when empathy, all it took was just sitting with someone in the moment, not trying to change them, not
Yeah.
trying to talk them out of it, but sitting there and just experiencing it with them.
Yeah.
And it was life-giving for her.
Well, and I
So
think that's the lesson is that empathy is not about the fixing and the solving. It's about just being there and acknowledging and giving someone space. And I often talk about the concept of empathy, especially in the workplace, as you know, as a method of information gathering, right? Let me understand what
Yes.
you're going through, what your context is, and then I can take a next right step. But that next right step isn't I solve your problem or I change my decision or I do whatever you want me to do.
Yep.
That next right step, you intuitively figured out it was sitting next to her. It was listening to her. It was acknowledging her pain. And then,
Yep.
you know, you went further afterwards of like, basically, I heard everything she said, and now let me go do this nice thing for her, right? But
Yeah.
we so often jump into the, oh, how do I solve this for you? Or how do I fix this for you so you don't feel what you feel anymore and I don't feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Um, that there's, I do believe that empathy has an action step to it
Yes.
because otherwise it
Compassion.
can,
Hmm.
right, it's the compassionate empathy. And
Yeah.
I think without that, it borders on a little bit of sympathy and kind of feels a little wonky. And Brene Brown has that absolutely beautiful video distinguishing between the two.
Yep.
But if it has an action step, it almost becomes even more real. So what was beautiful, we had that trophy made. None of us wanted to deliver it. We didn't want it to be about us in any way. We
Right.
had someone, courier. Well, they were supposed to take it at like 3 and then report back to us. How was she? Did she accept it? How did it go? 3:30 came, 4 o'clock came, 5 o'clock came, 5:30 came. He finally reached out and he goes, I've been trying to get away. She made me dinner. We drank her new favorite tequila. She showed me a video of her son that had just passed, like of him playing golf with her. Like he got
Yeah.
trapped in that moment, but
Right.
in a good way. And I'm like, we're
Right.
so sorry. He goes, are you kidding me? That was the best meal I've had in forever. She was amazing.
Right.
So
Right.
there's an action step of it. And
It's
it's,
that's
yeah,
true. And I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that though,
go.
too, because the action is the listening. The
Yeah,
action
agreed.
is the
Agreed.
sitting. The action isn't always the gesture, which was a wonderful gesture because you heard her and you acted
Yep.
on what you heard. But, you know, just to help folks listening to understand that it's not always about the solution or the grand gesture or the whatever. The action in and of itself can be the sitting and the listening and the acknowledging and the sharing
Yep.
and giving someone space, right? The other action, quote unquote, that you took was you gave her emotions space. You didn't jump right back into the reason that you were there
Yep.
because it was, you know, well, this is why we're here. And maybe if I just keep plowing through this, she'll feel better.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge that in and of itself was such a beautiful action of an act of compassion that you gave to let her just be and let her just feel, right? And
Yep.
that's the thing that's so hard for so many of us. And especially
Yep.
in the workplace, it's no, my job as a leader is you're coming to me because I need to solve your problem, right? So
Absolutely.
so talk to us a little bit about how you know, after that epiphany and after that, not even epiphany, but where that really came home for you with your work with leaders and teams and helping them. What makes empathy so important? What are the things that you tell them? I know we talk about that on the show, but what are the things that have resonated for your clients that
Yeah.
really bring it home for them without having an experience like that?
In the culture that we currently live in, it is so important to recognize the human that is in front of you. And so often that person in the other side of you has a label. You've labeled them by class, by race, by how they act. You've got all of these, you've put them in a box. Empathy, I believe, is a way to break out of that box and see the other person as a human, as someone worth connecting to, someone that has a story. We walk around as the stars of our own movies, right? We are the leading role. And we have to recognize other people have their own movies going on. And if we can somehow step inside that and learn a little bit about who they are, and it gives us insight into what makes them tick. It gives us insight into how to deal with issues that might come up in a relationship, possible issues that come up at work, even if it's performance. There's always a story behind. It's rarely just, I don't care anymore. It's usually there's a story underneath it that gets
Right,
to what's going on, what's actually happening.
right,
But we don't get to those deep places very often in
right.
business. We really like to keep it very surface level. And because we have this vision that it's messy
Yeah.
or it's ugly. And it's not, it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
yes, it may get a little messy for a minute because that's what emotions are, man. Emotions can get messy. They really can.
Hmm.
But they're just a signal that something else is going on. An
For
emotion
sure.
is just a signal like, hey, there's something else here. You should be paying attention to this.
Yeah. Well, and
So,
that's why the curiosity aspect of like
oh boy, yeah.
even the fact of what you in that story you were describing, you were curious, your eyes were open. You were wanting to find out more. And I think some of the work that I do with leaders and teams
Hmm.
is for those that are not necessarily touchy-feely, emotional people, and they feel awkward. They feel like they're interrogating someone when they ask questions. So, have you landed on something with your work and your clients that's a more comfortable way for them to start getting curious and asking those questions
Yeah,
and
there's
to show that curiosity without making it feel like they're just drilling someone with inappropriate questions, right?
absolutely. And it's probably just like three simple things to remember. One, you got to remember that empathy requires courage because it does. It is maybe one of the more courageous things you'll do is to be a human with another human, opening yourself up to their experience. Some writers call it de-selfing, but de-self a little bit, allow that other person to share their experience. Then a little bit of a heightened awareness of yourself. It's not just what they're going through, but what is what they're telling you doing inside of you? Because if you can recognize that, like that story when she started sharing that she had lost her son, you know what I connected inside of me was when I lost my mom. Because I was trying to think, what would I be feeling in the moment of losing something like this? And I hadn't lost a child, but I lost a mom. And I
Right.
immediately, that's what stirred me even more was recognizing what's happening inside of me is because I'm connecting to that place because of her
Right.
story. And then the last piece is just recognizing the remembrance of the common human bond. We share more, what is it, 99.9%? We're exactly the same. It's that 1% we spend so much time on trying to be different or an
Yeah.
individual. We have way more in common than ever. So to your point, I was working with a team recently, and the leader of the team said, I like it. Empathy sounds cool. I don't have time for it. I move too
Oh
fast.
yeah. I
I've got
always
I've
hear
got
this.
things to do. I
Yeah.
don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And it took a while. We walked through these three things, and he kind of got underneath a little bit and started recognizing, so if I slow down, I can speed up on the
Yeah.
other side. And for that has been a learning over time. Empathy is very much a slow down
Right.
and then you get to speed up because after you've connected with the other human, you
Right.
understand their story, you can, on the back end, you're functioning more as a team, more together because you understand each other on a deeper level.
Right.
So it's actually a way to speed up your processes than slow down. Sure, you'll slow down for a minute to
Yeah.
connect and understand, but the
Yeah.
backside is where the payoff is.
Well, I always use two analogies to bring this point home. One is you would never just launch into tactics without a strategy.
That's right.
I mean, you shouldn't, right?
Right.
Some companies and leaders do. But
Yes, they
this
do.
idea of, yes, putting together a strategy takes time. But once you have the strategy in place, you can go, you can execute, and everything is aligned and everything is more effective. Secondly, car maintenance, right? If you don't
Yeah.
take the time to, if you have a gas car, get your oil changed, get your mileage checkups. If you have an EV, getting the battery tested, whatever it is. If you don't take that time before something goes wrong, then when something goes wrong, it's harder to recover from.
I love that.
And
Yes.
you would never wait until, you just ran your car into the ground because man, that'll take a lot more time to recover from if you don't make those stops along the way and take that time to go get the car maintained. Preventative, right? Just like medicine, it's
Yeah.
preventative and it just enables everything to flow much more easily. I don't know about you, but that's what I hear a lot from leaders is just the heaviness and the tightness
Yep.
and the overwhelm of leadership right now. And
Hmm.
I really feel like empathy is something that sort of loosens that a little bit. That if everyone
100%.
is if everyone is understanding each other and honoring where everyone else is, it makes those tough situations flow more easily. It's sort of like loosening the knot.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And I think that leader that I was referencing came back to me later and he actually corrected himself. He's like, How do I not have time to stop and empathically connect with someone?
So good.
And that's where he got to. But it
Yeah.
took the practice, right? It took the, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the thing. And once he did it, he's like, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Empathy
Once they
made
see the results, right? Yeah.
absolutely. So
So
that's, yeah,
I was going
go
to say,
ahead.
how do you help? I was referencing this earlier, and I'm just curious of your approach when you are working with those leaders that are sort of the, arms crossed in front of their bodies. I don't think this has a place in the workplace. I don't think I need to get to know my team. They just need to deliver and perform. What kinds of responses do you have to that? Or what do you do to sort of open their eyes a little bit?
Yeah, I think my easiest way through is stories. It's
Yeah.
always been stories. The more you can, story is a great way to humanize the situation. It's a great way to share the depth of humanity with someone. So we usually tell stories. And if we have time, I've
Yeah.
got one story, not as long as the last one, but another story. We were working with a client team. It was actually the brand Always that was we were working with, and
Okay.
they had done this huge global research project.
Well, we
And
should level set for anyone that doesn't know what they're familiar with that.
yes,
Yes.
always feminine hygiene brand.
Mhm.
That is one of many. But
Right.
we were working with their client team, and they had just done. Actually, we weren't working with them yet. Something happened before we were. They did this global project, went into 7, 8 different countries, compiled all their learnings, did ideation, handed off their learnings, the insights to Leo Burnett, another
The
agency that
advertising
is
agency. Yeah. Mhm.
absolutely wonderful agency to work with. They took what they gave them, and this is my thing. It's like the better content and the better insights, the depth of insight you can give to an agency like that, the better the product that you're going to get on the other end, the better the storytelling is going to be. But
Right.
when you give them surface level insights to function on, they come back. In fact, the campaign they came back with was called "Have a Happy Period,"
I
which
remember this.
it
I remember this because I'm a woman and it's
yeah.
like, that's BS.
One and what man wrote it, right? What
Exactly.
man wrote this
Exactly. Yeah.
campaign? That's
Yeah.
absolutely well, as you can imagine, it bombed horrifically.
Hmm.
So much so that they went through a few years of scrubbing it from the internet. It was that much of an embarrassment.
Yeah.
But the good news is, someone that was at that company had been through our empathy training. They're like, hey, we should call this company. They use empathy and maybe we can get a little bit deeper. So we redid. This is also a rare thing that happens. They redid the research working with
Wow.
us, and we trained the team on empathy.
Hmm.
And we went back into those same countries, came back together, and wrote a very, very different set of insights that came
Yeah.
out of it, which led to, by the way, went right back to Leo Burnett.
Yeah.
We took insights, these new empathic insights, went back to Leo Burnett, and they created the Like a Girl campaign.
Yes.
And if you have not seen it, listeners, just go to YouTube and type
I'll
in
put
Like
a
a
link
Girl.
to it in the show notes.
One of the most beautiful, I still cry, and I've seen it literally. I think I account for at least one of the millions that have of how many times it's been viewed on YouTube
Yeah.
because I use it in everything. It's just a beautiful of this is what empathy nets you. So when you
Right.
ask what do I do with leadership, I'm like, this.
Yeah.
Look at this example. This
Yeah.
is what it gets you.
Yeah.
A Super Bowl commercial that now has tens of millions of views over the course
Yeah.
of a few years. So
Yeah.
if you can show them a little bit of the proof in the pudding, I think there's something to that.
For
So
sure.
that's been the most help, I think, sharing stories similar to that one.
For sure. What a great story. And I will link to that in the show notes because
Awesome.
I do remember that one as well. So, and that resonated with me. So love it. Okay. As we kind of wrap up our final discussion point, what are some things that listeners can remember to use empathy as a tool? And let's also talk about just even that language of using empathy as a
Mm,
tool, because we definitely are not advocating that folks manipulate with empathy, but
yes.
empathy as a way, as I always talk about, as a strategic advantage, as a competitive advantage. So what are some specific ways that listeners can leverage it and
Yeah.
use it?
It is, there's some simple steps to remember. And in the end, it may feel a bit mechanical as you first, but every process is, right? The more you use it, the more it becomes second nature. Then
Yeah,
you're not thinking about it. It's just how you
it's
are.
muscle memory. Yeah.
100%. So some of the simple things that we say and these may sound rudimentary, but they've been super impactful so far. There's like 4 steps. It's acknowledge that the person you're sitting across from is different from you. They've got I've mentioned that before. They've got their own story. They're moving at their own pace. They've got their own set of challenges and difficulties in their life.
Right.
Acknowledge that they're different from you.
Right.
So
And
they're
that's not
going
good
to
or bad. It's different.
no,
Yeah.
it's just different. They're going to have their own way of seeing the world. They're going to have different reactions to things that you do. And
Yeah.
that's not right or wrong. It just is. And we should start embracing that difference
Yeah.
instead of trying to all be the same. I think there's
Right.
beauty in that difference.
Right.
So if you acknowledge, and then the next step is you've got to decide to connect. You have to decide to connect. And that is maybe the hardest piece in all of this. Because once you acknowledge they're different, that means if I'm going to decide to connect, I'm opening up myself a little bit. Like I'm going to lay myself bare a little. And that's very uncomfortable and very different for a work setting. It just is. We're not used to going to that level of depth with people. So that whole deciding to connect after you've acknowledged the difference, and then recognize what is going on inside of you. I kind of walked this out a little bit through my story because you have to recognize what is coming up in you as you listen to what's happening to them because you don't want to get your stuff on their story. You
Right.
have to keep those things different. You
Mhm.
can be, I felt like that also, but in the end, it's not the exact same story. So you're going to have a little bit of difference. So recognize what's going on inside of you so that you can keep those two things separate. And then the last thing is check back in. Go back to that sounds so simple, but it has worked over and over and over again, is check back in. Hey, I'm picking this up from you, and you said this. Am I right? Is that emotion that I've just called out? Is that even the thing? Because what you're going to
Right.
get from there is you were listening, is one, you listened to what I said.
Yeah.
Two, you know what? That is the emotion that I was sharing. And here's why that's important. Or that was close, but it's really more this. Either
Right.
either way, you've got this beautiful open conversation happening,
Yeah.
and then it kind of can be cyclical. You go right
Yeah.
back up to after they say no, it was this, you can acknowledge, you're right. Acknowledge we are different. And so
Right.
you are experiencing this different, and you kind of just roll through the
Right.
process. And you may do that 5, 6 times over the course of a conversation where you just keep working that process over and over again.
Yeah.
And in the end, there is a lot of writing and things about how empathy can be used in a negative way, in a manipulative way.
Yeah.
And I would say you've got to check your heart. That's that whole why are you doing it? What is the rationale? Are you trying to move them somewhere that you want them to be?
Right.
Or are you trying to understand them? If you're
Right.
trying to understand them, then that is a righteous reason to
Right.
be using empathy. It really is.
For sure. For sure. And I love that, that idea. I've talked about this in other episodes. That reflective listening is just
Hmm.
taking that step, taking that beat, and just making sure we're having the same conversation. And also that, like you said, like I heard you right. Right.
Yeah,
Like, and because if we're going to move forward in the conversation, if I have an assumption about what you just said and it's wrong, we're never going to get to a place of common ground.
that's right. That's right.
And so I love that because, like you said, the two outcomes are yes, wow, you were listening, I feel heard, or no, let me correct you.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
what I was saying is this. And it's like, oh, okay, now I have a deeper understanding of what you meant. I was actually overlaying what I thought I heard on you, but really, let me know what is actually being said here and what you actually mean by that. So I love this. This is so great. Um, what is sort of like a final piece of advice you can share with our listeners about embracing empathy as a leader and maybe
Mm.
getting back to this idea of empathy taking courage?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for calling that out again because I think it does, especially in our current climate and especially with just what has been traditional work settings.
Yeah.
Using empathy feels foreign because like we're not supposed to talk about those things at work.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's why check your humanity at the door when you come to work.
That's what I say all the time. We don't. The reality is we can't.
That's right.
Right.
Right. Bring your whole self to work. Bring
Yeah.
all of it to work. And having tools of how to manage that and how to understand one another once you get to work is where the secret sauce is. But yeah,
Right.
It's you have to be courageous in these times because there's a
Yeah,
lot of reasons why you shouldn't that sound right. And until you use it, you won't understand how wrong those reasons are and how
right.
much you should be using empathy.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of feeling like lately empathy is an act of rebellion.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I
As
love
is
it.
joy lately.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, I really think that the harder we can push back against a lot of the rhetoric out there that empathy has no place in business or empathy is weak.
Yeah.
We know from the data and the research that that's not true.
It is not.
So, the voices like yours, the voices like mine, like
Hmm.
we need to keep beating the drum on that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on the show and helping to beat that drum. Um,
Absolutely.
we're going to have all your links in the show notes, Lane. But for those who are on the go or exercising, what's one best place they can find out more about you and your work?
The easiest way is to come to our website. It's fivecapitals.net.
Perfect.
That's the easiest way.
Awesome. Awesome. And again, we'll have that in the show notes. But thank you so much for this conversation
Thanks
today
for
and your
having me.
insights. Really appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Empathy Edge podcast. If you like what you heard, you know what to do. Please rate, review, and share with a friend or colleague. And until next time, please remember that cash flow, creativity, and compassion are not mutually exclusive. Take care and be kind.